Dunn. Yeah.
If the peanut gallery could be quiet in the back, we were about ready to start our meeting. And we will start our meeting. Call to order of the Community Resources and Tourism Committee meeting for December 13th, 2022. The call of the roll, I think we're only missing Supervisor Bjork today. Everybody else is either here in person or via the Zoom. So wonderful. Approval of the minutes. If anybody has had a chance to review those, I'll take a motion to approve them. And seconded. Any comment or discussion or changes? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And that passes. Public comments. Michelle, do we have any public comments? And I don't see anybody here, so we will move on to the staff report from our area extension director.
Good evening. Thank you. Appreciate the time. First, just a couple of items that I have. First, want to thank the committee for the opportunity for the staff to close down the office and attend our all staff meeting. We were Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of last week. It's the first time that our entire state has gotten together since before COVID. So it was really good for the staff to connect with their colleagues, to connect with people across the different institutes in the state, and it was a really uplifting, I think, opportunity. So thank you for that. I am going to pass this announcement on to Michelle, and I'm going to allow Michelle to start this announcement.
Deep breaths. So I submitted my resignation today. So my last day will be December 30th. I am moving into a project coordinator role with UW Extension. So I will not be moving far. And I will be continuing to assist the county department with like financials and other things for January, February, as we get my position filled. So
No, you can't leave.
Right. Yep. No, so I'm moving on to extension, but not moving far because I will still be housed here as well.
Okay.
So
Congratulations.
thank you.
Yeah, we're really excited for Michelle. And, honestly, it's hard, especially for me, who's still trying to learn these processes, and Michelle's like a rock star. But it's really cool when we can move people into positions and, have them give them opportunities to move up in the organization. And so we're really excited to have Michelle do that. So as Michelle mentioned, we will start the process. So in full disclosure, Chris and I, and working with finance and with HR, we're looking, we're pretty close to figuring out likely moving this position into a state position with extension. So moving out of the county position into the state position. So it'll be on the 136 contract that I shared with you all a few months ago. It'll be still full county paid. It's not a co-funded position. But what that does is a couple of things. It allows the processes to be very similar. So right now, Michelle's working in 2 different systems. She's also being supervised by a state employee, and that doesn't sit well a lot of times between both parties. And then also a little bit cheaper because our benefit package is we have robust employees, so our benefit package usually comes in a little bit cheaper. And then it allows us to align the position description with it, because we're obviously a little bit nuanced in the county in terms of department. So it allows them to align a little bit with that. So we're working through that process currently. And so we'll try to get this position posted as soon as possible so that we can get that filled. Michelle has agreed to an overload, so she will be continuing to serve in a little bit of a capacity, helping with the financials, because basically what I don't want to happen, because of me also being new to the processes, is to put undue burden on the county and the county departments such as finance and HR and IT and some of these departments that we interface with. and the processes that we have in place to not have to, train me, train somebody, and then, so Michelle will be here to help with that transition. Plus, Zach, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Yes, I think it's like Romirski, so I'm not even gonna try. He'll start as the 4-H educator on January 3rd. So we're going to, he comes to us from a number of different school districts. He's currently a teacher, an elementary school teacher, also has worked in the as a park ranger and has done some programming in that area. So we're really excited for 4-H to have some of that experience as well. So he'll be moving into that role. We have a meet and greet tomorrow around 4. If anybody's available to come by and meet with Zach. But he'll
Weather permitting.
Weather permitting. Very good. Yes. So Zach will be starting in that role on the 3rd. So Michelle will hopefully help with that transition as well. So those are some of the overload things that she'll be doing in that time period, hopefully just January and February. So that's all the personnel updates. I hope everybody else is staying put. The only other, I just want to preempt this conversation in January or February. I'm going to be coming to you to discuss the ag model and what that's going to look like and your input into that moving forward. As you know, we have a vacancy here and the state does have an ag model that they have adopted. And a lot of counties have adopted. So I'll be discussing that with you all and with the other counties as well. And we'll look at moving into that direction. So I'll be bringing that into play January. I'm thinking more February, just because as you may not be aware, they did finally hire somebody in my position in Area 5, but I was asked to continue in this interim role through the rest of this year, so through the end of December. And so it's caused a little bit more of a delay in me jumping into some of these areas that I've been wanting to bring to your attention, to work on, and to move forward with. So I'm thinking around February is where I can bring that forward for discussion.
Good.
And I think that's all I have. Anybody else have anything? Okay. Thank you.
Any comments or questions or thoughts from anybody? If not, we're going to move on. And is this the extension financial report then that we're okay?
Yep. So this financial report is coming off of what Beata has been working on. A new spreadsheet that all departments will be using so that there is uniformity in reporting our financials to our committees. So on the very back of the packet, we have our extension financials. And the way this worked, it took the information from SAP through October 15th, because that is when she was able to close the system. But then it allows us for updating the projected numbers to go in and make those tweaks for what expenses we've submitted since and what we know is going to be coming. So this does not include like my payout for vacation and sick time should still be in the 2022 budget as I'm done at the end of the year. But there is room for that because of the educator vacancies. And then I did ask Beata if we could separate out that contractual consulting line as that is what the educator contract comes out of, just to show that the bulk of the extension budget will always be that line. And then the true operating expenses will be up above. So those are separate. So when we ran this, we were looking at about 27,000 that we would be returning. But then with my payouts, we're going to probably be closer to 15. But we will still come under budget for the year.
Okay. Any comments, questions, thoughts about the budget? Seems rather straightforward, so. Okay. Then we're going to move on to our extension educator presentation. And who is doing the presentation? This month.
So Addison, you had asked Addison to come back to talk a little bit about the broadband.
Yes.
Addison is currently on sick leave, so he is not able to be here. So I think we'll just move on to the other educators and we'll put Addison on for next month so that he can give his report at that point. If you would like to speak with him, if you have some specific questions prior, I believe the 16th is when he will be off of sick leave if he has the clearance from his physician. So please reach out to him at that point. But I think in the meantime, if you don't mind, we'll just see if you have any questions of the educators here and they can give a brief overview of some of the highlights for the month.
All right. My name is Luisa Gerasimo. I am the Human Development and Relationships Educator for Dunn County. I don't have a lot new to report, it being the almost holiday time of the year between Thanksgiving and the next one coming up and our being gone at all colleagues. But I have been busy getting trained to be able to offer some new things to the community, and I will be attending a week-long training for Real Colors in January. I'm pretty excited about that. I already have 3 or 4 county departments who have asked me to present, and I need to talk to you about that a little bit more. Having Kristen on board is really helpful because she also was a Real Colors facilitator. So the only thing I wanted to show you, I did get printed with Michelle's help. We made a bookmark at the state level and county, those counties who are participating in the attempt to move Wisconsin to a universal childhood savings program. We are in 17 different counties right now, and we've had some success at the legislative level, talking to people about how Wisconsin could have a universal childhood savings account. Meanwhile, people are working on it county by county, and we'll be having a meeting in Brown County on January 19th, and I will be attending that along with 2 representatives from our Dunn County Community Foundation. They are going to pick other people's brains who are also from smaller counties in Wisconsin and the UP to learn about how other communities have gotten this going without going in the full-on universal whole state model, which I think the time will come for that eventually, but we're going to start here maybe a little bit more locally. So we did print out a bookmark, and I'd love each one of you guys to take that because it will take a whole community being interested in this to be able to elevate it for the benefit of Dunn County. And I just wanted to mention that counties who have done this in other places like Indiana have found that their kids are doing better in school. They're graduating at much higher rates. People are going on to college and graduating. And probably more important is we talk about promoting our county to younger people who want to move here and start a family and become taxpayers and attend school, that having this program in your county is something that you can advertise to real estate agents and other people who are maybe our first people who are meeting those who are considering moving to our county. And I know most counties in Wisconsin are struggling a little bit to hang on to their younger people or to get the younger people to come back after they've maybe attended education or started a job somewhere else. So this may be a panacea in some ways. It may help across a lot of different levels in our community. And I guess that's it for now. I'm still working on teaching the co-parenting classes. I'm doing that in person on Saturdays once a month, and every other month with colleagues from northern counties. We teach via Zoom, and we're getting good attendance with that. Clearly, our judicial people know that I'm in the job. I'm getting lots of phone calls every week about Parents Forever and what the options are for signing up. So that's been going well. And then in the jail, we're doing the interactive reading program and making reading memories where incarcerated parents get a chance to read to their children, and the book is mailed by our office to the children with the permission of the other caretaker. And that is going very well. We've got a great jail partner over there, Heather Pica, who's a deputy sheriff in charge of programs at the jail and was also one of our 4-H club leaders. So I get to work with her in a different capacity. So I'm going to hand these out and turn this over to my colleague, Sandy, unless you have questions.
Any questions for Lisa? I saw your hand first.
Tom?
Yeah, would you mind just briefly sort of summarizing the childhood savings program?
Sure. So this operates different ways in different places. Milwaukee has the Milwaukee Promise, which I think is a 529 account where every child born in Milwaukee County starts out with a small savings account. This has been going on in cities and regions for about 15 or 20 years, so it's been pretty well studied. And the statistics are kind of shocking. Children with a savings account for higher education with just $1 to $499 are 3 times more likely to attend higher education and 4 times more likely to graduate. So it's not the amount of money, as you know, like 499 will probably buy you a biology textbook right now. So it's not the amount of money, it's the cascading triggers that happen when you tell a family your child could go to college. And the community has put in maybe something small like $25 a kid. And then community partners, organizations, businesses, health, like hospitals and health institutions can donate for milestone events. So a child's birthday, or maybe reading 100 books in 3rd grade, good grades, and then families themselves can also give donations, and sometimes organizations will match those. So it's a little bit of money that makes a humongous difference. Obviously, families with means could take that little savings account and turn it into something bigger by the time a child is done with their education here. But the thing that I find really impressive is that what is happening, I think, is we're infusing hope. And I don't know if you guys read a lot of news articles or follow what's going on, but there's a real challenge for mental health in our country, and people have various reasons for feeling that things are not going well for them. And infusing hope is something that I think is really important. So one of the things that we've discovered, besides the kids doing better in school and going on for more education, is that the level of maternal depression in households that are near poverty level that have this account decreases. So parents, single parents or parents who are having a hard time financially, they can't tap this money to fix their car or to add groceries, but just knowing that there's something there that is intended for their child helps with their success, and it helps the parents feel better.
And how is the money held? Is it in a local foundation or a trust fund of some kind? Or?
Yeah, so that's an excellent question. There are a number of tools that you can use to hold this money. The 529 accounts are, that's like got federal rules about it. And that is held as an investment, like a shared investment.
By the parent?
No, by an organization on behalf of the child.
Okay.
So the parent, most of the programs that are most successful, it is an opt-out program. So everybody in, say, our county would just be included automatically. And we could choose to do that at birth or kindergarten, some milestone where we know those are the kids. There are different tax benefits and different barriers to getting people involved, whether we choose to do it at a credit union ourselves as Dunn County, we would have to have somebody keeping track of that, or whether we use an account that's already been set up, like a 529 account that we could participate in. And that is the question, which is a real stumper for us, and something that the Community Foundation is helping dig into. We will probably get an advisory group going sometime in 2023 and hope to have something by 2024 where at least we're at the level where we can start advertising what we do have ready to go. But that's something we would love input on. And if you guys know anybody who would be good, we haven't actually formed an advisory committee or a work group, but I think that's kind of where we're getting to. And other counties that have done this beforehand have found that it is better to have a more diverse set of folks at that table. We had somebody in FoodWise in Madison. We presented on this at the state conference last week. And one of the best questions we got was from a FoodWise person who said, how does this impact the family's eligibility for benefits? If you're talking to a family where they're getting food support, for instance, would having this account impact their ability to have food support? So these are things that are really, really important and would need to be decided. My role, by the way, is not running something like this. My role will literally be passing out information and bringing other partners in. I would not be at all shy about calling and asking for funding if we decide to do this ourselves. I think this is a pretty exciting program, and I think it's one that people will see why they would want to be involved as whether it's one of our larger employers. Chippewa Valley Technical has already talked about wanting to be on board, and they would advertise this to many of their students are in fact parents.
So this would be all children born in Dunn County and then who continue living in Dunn County as long as they live in Dunn County. If they move out of Dunn County, the account still stays with them, I'm guessing.
They get
right?
to keep the part they put in, and we could decide if we give them the starter amount. So that's, again, these are the devils in the details. The details will have to be worked out.
The angels are in the details.
I hope so. I think there's angels in this one.
Yeah.
I do. I really truly believe that. And I think that we have the capacity in this community to make this happen, that we have funders who will, we've already talked a little bit about some of the families that are, have means and really want to support young people. This makes way more sense than giving somebody who's graduating from high school a $500
Okay.
graduation present and saying, take it to school. Because what we're trying to do is pull people up to graduation level.
Mhm.
People who are graduating probably have a fair bit of support to get there, not everybody. But it's financially makes sense to plant those seeds early.
Supervisor Bjork, welcome to the committee. Glad you could show up.
Well, I'm glad my cows are.
Other one,
I spent
other
a little
button.
Little time with them.
There you go.
Bad weather.
Hi, Larry.
Hi,
Hi.
I shouldn't volunteer too much information, but I have had an opportunity to be in the visiting room of a number of state penal institutions.
Oh,
Let's put it
okay.
that way.
Okay.
So when you talk about the kids being able to see a parent, while they're incarcerated, things pop into my mind like, do you know where they meet, and do the parents have to be in their jail?
Oh, yeah. So let
Upward.
me explain that a little bit better. And I'm sorry if you missed, I presented on this a couple months ago, so I was cautious about repeating too much detail, but I go into the jail. The people who are participating are vetted by the program coordinator at the jail, the deputy sheriff. And I have already vetted them through CCAP, and I've already talked to the co-parent that they share that child with. The parent is recorded and picks a book that we supply, is recorded by me, and then I send that recording through an email to the other parent. So this program doesn't actually involve any in-person anything. So it's an opportunity to learn more about the importance of early childhood, brain development, the give and take that parents can have with their children, whether they're singing or washing dishes or reading a story, and then the picking out of the book, practicing it, and then we coach them a little bit. They read the book, I record it. So the physical book is mailed to the family that is obviously not incarcerated. And then the videotape is a digital link, which is sent so that the child gets the physical book and then gets to watch their mom or dad read them that story. Does that make sense? So there is no visiting
That
room.
disappoints me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to have one of the break rooms for a half hour with a parent and a child being able to sit across the table from each other and not have it be part of slamming steel doors and all that
Right.
crap.
And that's a jail question, not a Louisa
I
question.
know, fine, but you know what? If you don't ask. You probably- okay, I
totally
get it.
agree.
I
Yep.
remember your presentation, but I totally forgot that it was just.
Kind of separated that way. Yeah. Yeah,
well, that's too
absolutely.
bad.
Yeah, and the families are lonely for each other, so this is a way of building connection, and the idea behind it is twofold. One is to build that family cohesion, which is really important. When families are separated, it's really hard to get back to that relationship that we all want people to have with their children. It is also really important for society that that family unit stay solid, because the person who's incarcerated, who goes back out into our community, we want them to not go right back into the jail. And having a child and a reason for wanting to participate in the family can be one of the reasons that keeps people a little bit more on the up and up and less likely to go right back to the jail. I guess there's a third reason, which is that teaching families about the importance of early childhood brain development means some of them will do a better job parenting, which means the children who are impacted by that parenting will likely do better, because they will have learned a little bit about all the fun opportunities and the easy ways to interact. And a lot of parents don't know that their children are ready for reading right away. They think somehow they should be kindergarten before you read to them. So trying to get people early is really important. And it's a captive audience.
One more thing,
It's a bad joke.
you know, nothing is more thrilling, to have your kid read a kid's story to you.
Yeah.
So I mean, you know, if that interaction back and forth could happen, that'd be great too.
Absolutely. Thanks for the questions.
Okay, Sandy, move on to you.
All right, good late afternoon. The Foodwise team, as you may have read in our highlights, is completed their lessons in first, third grade at River Heights. And you know, this time of year, everybody's kind of dropping out with sickness. Well, not only the students, but the teachers, because apparently, because they got to teach in a class that was substitute taught by the principal, Mr. Principal Michael Kennedy. So that was kind of fun for them to at least have him see them in action. But so that was completed. And I just wanted to highlight our two initiatives in the community. One is the Winter Fun in Dunn. This is my chronic disease prevention team with Health Done Right, working with lots of different partners, especially Explore Menominee, Tammy Simon. And so this is our get out, and not only just get out, but enjoy the winter months with not only activity, but mental health activities as well. So whether it's staying inside, doing a puzzle, calling a friend, trying a new recipe, any of those activities, it's this Winter Fun and Done is like the summer passport, where whatever you're doing, take a picture, upload it, your name will get in a drawing. So I have just some handouts. I don't know if you're able to go to the highlights, but if anybody wants a copy of that, they can take it and share out with whomever, friends, neighbors, at work, whatever. And then also the other project I was working on this fall was the pre-diabetes risk assessment. Again, multiple partners. This is across the 3 counties as well. Stout students helped with this, public health and so forth. And so I did put the link into our highlights, but this is a really just good initiative that, because you can't help what you don't know. So we're really promoting people to know to do this risk assessment test. This actually Chippewa Health Improvement Partnership printed over 1,200 copies, 500 of which I'm taking to Stepping Stone so that they can disseminate it through their pop-up pantries and their weekend packs. And so thanks to them for printing them. And yeah, we're just trying to get the word out to just take this pre-diabetes risk assessment. But no, there's not a lot of new news then for Foodwise in December. Are there any questions for me?
Any questions for Sandy? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll send it over to the Zoom with Margaret and get maybe a short update from her.
I'm not hearing you, Margaret.
I see you turned your mic on, or you turned, but we're not hearing anything.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
My cat was chewing on it.
I saw the cat earlier in front of the camera, so that was classic.
The button, the camera. Yeah. Yes, unless you have any questions on the report I submitted earlier, I just wanted to do one quick update on the horticulture-based questions that come in throughout the growing season. And even though 2022 is not done yet, I've had about 320 contacts or questions come in throughout the 3 counties I serve, which was up slightly from last year, where we had maybe about 280 contacts that I recorded. And similar to last year, when people reach out to Extension for guidance on lawn and garden type questions, their primary way they contact us is through the phone. About half of the contacts first initially contact us by their phone, by calling us, and that not only is true for the 3 counties, but also mirrored in Dunn County as well. And what's nice is that Dunn County IT has, because I'm not in the Dunn County office physically all the time, so they have set it up so that any calls coming into me in Dunn County go directly to my work cell, so I don't miss any of those. Topics pretty much stayed the same as well as last year. Landscape general questions on maintenance and plant selection. Those are pretty common in all the counties I serve. What's nice about those plant selection questions is it gives me this one-on-one time with an individual to talk to them about best practices in plant selection, which can help reduce invasive species plants when they plant, and also create habitat more for native species. And the proper plant selection is something we preach, just because a plant in the right place not only survives, it thrives. And when a plant is thriving, it's much more resilient to attacks from disease and from insects, which hopefully will result in less need of any types of herbicides or pesticides or things like that. With Dunn County in particular, we get questions on landscape, general landscape questions, insects. A lot of questions this year on emerald ash borer. More and more people are really thinking about that and thinking about what to do with their ash trees, or whether they have to replace them and what they should be replacing them with. Fruits, plant ID are always questions. And then also in Dunn County, we get a lot of questions on lawns, which is another great opportunity to do some outreach with individuals on, again, best practices on the use of fertilizer and herbicides. And because overuse of fertilizers or herbicides or improper use of that can really increase the threat of contamination, particularly for our groundwater. So these one-on-ones with people that are contacting Extension for lawn, yard, garden guidance, I feel has been a real valuable service to our community. And some of the feedback I've received has been that people are very appreciative for the information they get from us. Resources, I always send them information if they're interested, so they have something to refer back to. And they're very appreciative. I hear this quite a bit. They're very appreciative of Extension just being here to provide this non-biased information, which in turn helps individuals and homeowners make more informed decisions when they want to do things with their landscape, or if they're looking at hiring a service for some of the work in their yard. Another thing I'm doing is working with facilities to put together a plant selection list for landscaping that they want to do in front of the government building. And so hopefully, again, we're looking for something that's going to be lower maintenance. There's no such thing as no maintenance, but lower maintenance. And hopefully, the right plants in the right place that maybe we can even use as a way to demonstrate that concept. So I'm excited about working on that over the winter so we can get planting in the spring. But that's about it. Unless you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Any questions for Margaret? Supervisor Bjork?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have a question, but I want to give you a heads up and a chance to win a blue ribbon.
Okay.
Dunn County is going to be the home of a solar project of approximately 1,600 to 2,000 acres. And one of the selling points that's given is the increase in pollinators. Now, a little history on the area where it is. It's in the town of Springbrook, the prairie land that at one time housed dozens and dozens of farms in the 20s and 30s that all dried up and blew away. They planted shelter belt pine trees on the fence lines to stop the wind erosion. Irrigation came in and they cut down all the pine trees and went with cover crop, and but blowing sand destroys cover crop pretty easily. So, whether you or Jerry Clark or whoever, I mean, university ought to get some statistical information on what is the organic matter, a profile of that soil at the start of the project. And it's a 35-year contract. And, I'm not real excited about the visuals of it, but talking to the landowner, they're the same age as my sons. And he says, Larry, think of it as conservation reserve that produces electricity. Well, that kind of won me over because I just finished a 25-year conservation reserve, and that soil coming out of 25 years of conservation reserve is just amazing. Now, what they do after that 35-year contract runs out with solar, if they renew it or what they don't renew it, But we ought to be somehow getting a number on, you know, how this has affected the pollinators, how this has affected groundwater, how this has affected wind erosion, conservation, and the actual nuts and bolts of how the soil has changed. And so you talk to the right people about that, and I think they would find it interesting. Maybe you're the right person. That's, you know.
Thanks. It sounds like a collaborative effort. And I'd be interested to see if what environmental impacts their, you know, studies or statements or, you know, they're doing with that. But that's a conversation I actually will have with Jerry, our agronomist, and see what he knows or what he's thinking about that. So yes, thank you for bringing that up.
Hope you get the blue ribbon.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Any other questions for Margaret? If not, we are going to move on. Thank you, Extension folks, for your updates and reports. We're going to move on to our rural tourism website update. I was going to hopefully share the site with you, and instead our web developer recorded a video that kind of is going to take us through his process, where he's at the site, and show you kind of how it's going. And Michelle has downloaded it, and she is going to play it so that also Supervisor Barrier at home will be able to see it as well and listen to Dave's update. It's about 6 minutes, so it's not overly long once she gets it figured out. There we go.
Here's an update on the Visit Dunn County website. The headline would be that we intend to launch in about a month. The trick is going to be getting enough information, content entered into the website now. We have two major tools, an events tool and a directory tool. We need to get enough information in those tools so that we have a good basis of information, but then we really have to get it out before the public and start publicizing it, so we get that public buy-in, so that communities and event organizers and so forth can come to us, and it can really become the collaborative effort that it was envisioned to be from the start. Now, I will just demonstrate quickly here the two different tools that we'll be using. We intended at first, if we could, to use just one tool, one basic behind-the-scenes database that would drive the whole website. And that's not very practical, so we've made the decision to use a couple of different tools. One of them is going to be the upcoming events tool. So just to demonstrate that, this is a defunct event, but it'll serve the purpose here. Here's an event, and a row of events would appear, and when people click, why, they see details about the event and so on. They see a map, they can share it, so on and so forth. But then over here, we have tags. People can search by tags. What else is going on at the library? What else involves books? That sort of thing. But then organizers. Well, it's organized in part by the Menominee Public Library. Well, when we click on that, we have information about the library, and then we see all of their upcoming events. The same with Brewery Nonic, anything that they've got coming up. You click and you see their basic information, and then you see what else they have coming up. So that's a cross-referential event-based database that we were hoping would work for the whole thing. But honestly, when you get into parks and entertainment venues and businesses, private businesses and other community resources, we have finally determined that we would like to use a directory plugin for that. Now it'll be seamless, for users of the website. They're going to just be interested in the data that they receive. But just to briefly demonstrate the directory aspect, here's a demo of the directory that we're using, and there are multiple layouts that you can use. You can sort by various criteria. Let's look at another view here. We're determining which of these views we like best, but just to show you, we've entered incomplete detail now the dining aspect. So here's our very first category of businesses, and it's dining. And again, this is not the final layout of a home page, and it's only the one category. But you see that while we're on this page, for most of these, we have an image. We'll get images for the others. But you see we have this map over here, and people can click. There's the restaurant in Boyceville. Here's one in Colfax. Here's one in Albertville. So again, the idea being that it's all inclusive, and all parts of Dunn County are represented. We go on to the next page here. We really like to focus on locally owned businesses and so forth, but the chains and stuff would have to be represented too. And there's Donut Sam's. So that is the directory aspect. And as an example here, the next data category we're going to enter is, we got this wonderful document from Addison Vang, if you're familiar, who used to work for the city. And this is a list of all the area parks with the acreage, the details, the history, just a fantastic resource. And that's why we say getting the community buy-in, people who really have feet on the ground, have done the some legwork on various aspects. If we find one quilter, we'll learn about all the quilters active maybe in the Dunn County area, that sort of thing. And again, when we talk about community buy-in, if someone in the village of Knapp could submit photos of these couple of parks, and in Wheeler, these parks, because obviously it's too big a job for any one or two people to run around and get all of these photos. But once the website is published and promoted, that's the sort of cooperation and buy-in that we're hoping will make it increasingly valuable as more and more data is gathered and entered. So that is the update for today. Oh, I should point out just very briefly, there are in fact two versions of the website that I've shown you here in this demonstration video. We do have a live website posted at visitduncounty.com, and it is primarily aimed right now at having people submit their information. So, for instance, submit an event, and the organizer can fill out all of this info, and then we transcribe that into the database. So this is the live website, but we also have the working website, a development site that is not published for the public, and that is where we're entering and configuring the main tools, which will be imported into the live site when they are complete. So hopefully this is beneficial. Always interested in feedback and any help that can be offered, any guidance, maybe other community members that would be worthwhile for us to talk to in this final push. But again, the goal here is to have basic info and events published so that the website can be made public and start being heavily promoted within about a month. Any questions? Let us know, and thanks.
And that's the update. And I talked to Dave, the developer. So if anybody has any questions beyond what you heard, feel free to raise them. But he's had to bring in some helpers basically to kind of gather all the information, and just putting that initial like dining guide together took a month. So it's a much slower process than kind of anticipated, but once there's enough of that out there and then the site can get published, I think that it's going to get utilized more often. Like, for example, when people learn about it and say they have, I don't know, like a new bookstore and they're doing events, they may want to perhaps have those events promoted on the site. So, and then other bookstores and other people will find out about it. So, but always encouraging people that you run across that do events or have information to share, that they should go to the site and share it when, at any point, because especially when it goes live within the next 30 days, a lot of that stuff will be on there, and having events into the new year now is going to be important. Any questions, comments from anybody? If not, we're going to move on to communications, Dunn County Communications, and maybe Chris, you could just step up and just talk about some of the video stuff that you have been doing. But also, since the budget is passed, we will be able to bring on Doug Mell, who is going to be providing some communications assistance with the county, and perhaps assisting Chris also with some of the messaging that is going to be coming out of your department. So what have you been up to?
Well, so hopefully you saw our introductory message from the county manager prior to the county board last month. Because there's no December meeting, we didn't have a December message, but that was very well viewed. Thanks, many thank yous to Supervisor Zons for helping us with his professional guidance to sort of figure out for our first crack what we were doing anyway, and knowing that we will get better at that as time goes by. So that went out. I think last time, shortly afterwards, I looked and it had almost 1,000 views on Facebook. So
That's
on
really
social
good,
media.
actually.
Yeah. So again, don't know that anyone sat through the entire thing, but at least motivated enough to click and look at it. We have, I'm waiting for confirmation, but I believe that Supervisor Sean Breslin is coming in next week, before or after the neighbors meeting, to do the first Meet Your County Board Supervisor video. And then Extension took kind of the idea and ran with it, and created video introduction links on their website for their staff. So kind of the idea grows. Dan Dunbar and I met with, Dan's been very instrumental. Dan and Krista have been instrumental in sort of our planning for this communication strategizing. And so Dan and I met with Doug Mell probably close to a month ago, just to think about what it was that we were potentially wanting to accomplish. And we decided that we would meet virtually, because that works. We would meet virtually once a month to just talk about what was happening on a county level, what was important to be focused on, and messaging to obtain his help. We have essentially 10 hours of his time, which is a nice chunk of time. And both in terms of looking at him doing some information and press releases, but also, as Supervisor Zons indicated, helping us to hone in on what is the message that we would like to be able to push out to the public. And so I would, I guess the whole communication strategy piece sort of does end up by default lying with this committee. So at any point, or today or another day, that you wish to say, hey, it would be really helpful if you focused in on this particular area. We've brainstormed some ideas, but it's an open book at this point in time.
Yes. Tom?
Hey, it might be helpful if you would think about focusing on an area. I don't know whether it makes, it's a broadband issue. So right now, the state they've just released a new round of grants for funding, and the application process is open till February. We need to check with our providers and see if they plan to apply, and if so, we could think about using the money. But the other thing they're doing is they're asking people to check the coverage map, that the
yes,
national coverage map that's out there. And I don't know whether that's something that lends itself to the kind of communication we're thinking about, but I think the comments are open until like January 20th, something like that.
Yeah, and that was actually something I was planning to say during the announcement that
Okay.
to everybody on the committee should make a point of looking that up. And maybe that's a link that we can share later, just to directly go to, because what they want is the comments on the maps. They've come up with a new criteria for determining where broadband access is, and they want feedback on those maps. So I think to go along your lines, whether there's a short video or it's just even a communication via
Yeah, some kind
Facebook
of
or
a-
something.
Some kind of a notification the problem, of course, is follow-up. If people are confused and want to have more information, who do they go to? And we don't have that.
Sure.
But at least something that says that we can consider something that says this is out there. If you want to use it, connect here. Here's what it's for. It looks pretty simple to use. I suspect that we're going to find that it's at quick glance it says that pretty much all of Dunn County is fine. We know that's not true.
That's not true. Yeah.
Actually, what was really interesting about that, and I need to play around with it a little bit more myself, but it looked like that when you first looked at it, but then when you really
You zoom in, there are
zoomed
spots
in,
that are
then
nothing.
there were spots where there were nothing.
Yeah.
Right. So I think, in the scale, it looks like it's all covered, but because I hear people who are, for instance, maybe just outside of the city who are concerned about poor coverage. And I'm like, can that be when this is showing this is all good? And then, but when you looked a little bit deeper, that wasn't
Well, and
necessarily the case.
sometimes they I'm not sure what it is now. It used to be CenturyLink. They will say they have 25 megabytes upload, but they never ever do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And also a lot of the coverage I notice includes the Starlink system, which
Mhm.
is a satellite system. Very expensive. But that might be something to look at.
Yeah, no, that's a really great idea. And I thought that you were going to, but
Well, then I was
we'll
also gonna
tackle
mention
the Lake District. Yeah.
Lake District, yeah, and I think later on we may want to. I know that we sent out I don't know if you folks noticed, got it or no, but the well testing program
Oh, yes.
sent out a postcard, or they didn't send it actually. The heat organization sent out a postcard announcing the program and inviting anyone interested to submit an application online. So we've been, as I understand it, land conservation has been deluged with people.
Yeah.
Oh, really? So
yeah.
people are taking advantage.
500 people so far have
Yeah,
requested.
with a lot.
I'm one of them.
Yeah. I mean, it was an okay flyer. Again, the downside of it was it didn't really mention Dunn County. And that was probably because we didn't do it. So that's an explanation. But it may be that that program's not really going to kick off till the spring, but we could think about that.
Yep.
At that point.
The other thing that Dan has been working on, because he gets a kick out of this line of things and the technology piece and putting together, he's been putting together some scripts essentially, but whether they end up being just narrated PowerPoints or short videos, probably video PowerPoint into short video, on just basic, like, how is the budget put together? One of the things that we've talked about are how does the whole tax assessment system work? Because I think that so many people believe that because their assessed value went up, their taxes will go up. And that's not true, but I think if you lined up 100 people, I would say probably 90 people would believe that because their assessed value went up, their taxes were going to go up. And so, yeah, just some public information about how those systems work. We talked about doing one. We wished we had thought about it soon enough to do one for the election, but how elections work.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think at least within our little group we've been excited about, and there's just endless content of things to be able to share. So
Any other comments for our county manager? If not, thank you, Chris. We don't have any actions to consider by the committee, and like I said, the one announcement I was going to make was about the broadband survey. So if you can make it a point to look that up, maybe what I can do is find the link for that and just send it out to everybody on the committee so that you all are aware of it. And then you can share it, and especially I'd say broadband is the number one comment I get from people in my district as far as complaints about it. That and County Road B. So this is, the people who I know that complain the most about it, I'm going to probably have them fill that out for their house. But kind of encourage everybody to go ahead and do that. But does anybody else have any announcements? If not, our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, January 10th of the new year. And the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.